Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Robin's Nest. If you didn't watch the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, it wrapped up about an hour or so ago. The big controversy and fallout from that race is the fact that McLaren gave team orders. They botched their pit stops towards the end of the race. Lando was leading Piastri. He was running second. Piastri was running third. The way that it was all going to shake out. At the time, they were running first and second, but they decided to make a pit stop, so Max was going to leapfrog back over him. But they were essentially running second and third. They brought Oscar in first. I still don't understand why they did that, because you'll get the undercut if you come in first. Traditionally, that's what happens. But anyways, McLaren botched the pit stop when Lando came in. They messed up on the left front, couldn't get the nut on, or didn't get the nut on tight enough. Anyways, they cost him the position to Piastri, and so they gave team orders for Oscar to give the spot back to Lando. And so there's fallout already from that. Everyone's moaning and complaining and griping about team orders in Formula One. And my position on that is twofold. Number one, if that's all we're talking about after the race, it just shows how absolutely boring the race itself was, because we're talking about podium position, second and third, just being swapped around. They're both still on the podium. It's going to be a little bit of a point swing, but not a great deal. So it doesn't mean a whole lot for those two guys to swap positions. So if we're sitting here talking about that, then the race was boring. Okay, and that's all there is to it. It is absolutely boring. But also look at it as far as, from this perspective, the team screwed up and ended up costing Lando the position. So I can understand, coming from their perspective, of wanting to switch the spots back around to keep there from being any kind of infighting amongst the drivers and the team, thinking that one's being shown preferential treatment or what have you. I understand all that. The thing about team orders, though, I thought team orders were banned in Formula One years ago. Granted, I went through a little spell there in like the teens where I didn't really pay that much attention to Formula One, just because Lewis Hamilton was, Mercedes could start 2 laps down if they get into the Grand Prix and still win. So I didn't watch it. They may have changed that rule. I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that it was against the rules in the 2000s. I think that came to being after Michael Schumacher and Rubens, but I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was a rule. Why did we ever get away from that? Obviously, if you give these teams a little bit of leeway, they're going to run with it, and they're going to exploit it at every opportunity. So, yeah, just ban it again. It's as simple as that. Just ban team orders outright, and if you're caught doing it, then you get a time penalty. Very simple. If you enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, or anything else I feel like talking about, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications. The works. If you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, anything like that, check out our eBay. The link is in the description. Follow me on Facebook and X. I post motorsports content daily, all day. Those links are also in the description. Without further ado, let's get into the rest of the video. So I'm going to talk about this, and I'm just going to be straight with you right off the top. It's going to make some people's tummy hurt. It is. It's going to make some people angry. But it's something that needs to be said, because I personally have heard there's rumblings going on within the business. And it's going to come to a head here before too much longer, unless something changes. And it's not just a simple case of, well, if you want it to change, well, then just do better. It's not a situation like that. Connor Zilisch won again last night. I think this dude's average finish over like the last 2.5 months has been like 2. He's won a lot. And like I said, I think his worst finish has been like 4th. This is all post Talladega. He got hurt at Talladega, and when he came back from that moment moving forward, he's been unbeatable, essentially. And you know, for some reason, you have to tread carefully when you talk about this. I don't really understand why. This shouldn't be controversial. You know, if something's going on, you should want to know. I mean, if you're a motorsports fan and you want there to be integrity in what you're watching and what you're paying your money to see, okay, you should want truth, honesty, transparency, whatever you want to call it. That's what you should want. Okay. I don't believe in 2025, with as tight as the rules are, with as tight as the inspection process is, that one team in the Xfinity Series can go out there and win as many times as they have, regardless of who is in the car. Okay? You've had 3 different drivers win in that car this year. Kyle Larson, Parker Kligerman, and Connor Zilisch. Okay? And then Connor, it was like they just flipped a switch after Talladega. Can that happen? Sure, I guess. To this extent, I don't know about that. You know, I don't want to just come right out and say that I think somebody's cheating, but something's going on. I don't think that the 88 team and Connor are just that legitimately faster than everyone else out there. I don't. And I'll tell you something that kind of illustrated it to me last night, which is after he won that race at Gateway, he intentionally, and it was intentional, okay, backed the car into the fence after the race was over. Okay, we've seen this done before. And Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus did the same thing. You know, it's not, you know, the sooner that we can get to a point where it's like, okay, we're in motorsports, people are going to find ways to bend the rules, is the sooner that we can all accept that basic fact, then we can have a real conversation about what could be going on. I'm not saying that it is, but what could be going on. Okay? But we can't even get to that point because people are just so, they get their heels dug in on this idea that there can't be any cheating in NASCAR. I've never understood that, and that's been around for a long time too. Like, people have always thought that for some reason, and I don't get it. Like, it's motor racing. Cheating happens regularly. Okay? If you believe NASCAR, then it happened at Daytona in February with Parker. Now, I don't believe that. I think that's nonsense. You know, especially when you do some digging into what actually happened in the inspection process after the race. I think that's complete BS. But according to NASCAR, they were cheating. So they took the win away from him and gave it to Corey Haim. That was absolute nonsense. Like I said, especially when you do some digging into what happened in the inspection process with the tech officials having their heads up their butt, not knowing what they're doing, telling the team to do one thing while they're measuring something else, and it makes what they're measuring read incorrectly. And then they say, well, your truck's too low. Well, yeah, but you just told us to do this while you were measuring it. Like, come on. You know, all that was that they wanted a full-time driver who's playoff eligible to go ahead and get that win at Daytona. Parker was not going to be in the playoffs. The Henderson team, Charlie's team, was not running full-time. They didn't want that to happen. So what better way? What better way than just say, oh, he failed tech inspection. Same thing happened with Ross at, Iowa a couple years ago in the Truck Series, where his truck failed post-race tech. And then you go into the details of what actually happened. It's absolute nonsense. Nonsense. You know, this whole thing about post-race tech inspection, if you fail it, now we're just going to, like, disqualify you. It's being used as a tool by NASCAR to manufacture the outcome of certain races. I will die on that hill. I'm sorry. I don't believe anything that comes out of the sanctioning body, period. Anything at face value, I do not take it. I do not. You know, with the stuff with the lawsuit, what was it, a couple weeks ago when they came out and they were releasing all the emails or email chains back and forth between NASCAR brass, just illustrates that they do not care about anything other than generating a profit. Okay? Now, if the 88 team is in fact doing something that's hinky, come on, it's the 88 car that's owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr. Okay? People who think that it's not that there's nothing going on are going to eat that up. That's the closest thing to Dale Jr. being back in the race car and winning races. And that's what it is. People are just totally biased. They just put blinders on and they just refuse to think or allow themselves to think that anything could be going on. Dale Jr., speaking of him, on his podcast, openly brags on a regular basis about cheating. He does. I'm not making that up. That's not me starting a conspiracy theory. Those words have come out of his mouth several times where he brags about what they've done in the past to cheat. And then he's also said that he wants crew chiefs who are looking for gray areas, who are bending the rules. That's the kind of crew chiefs that he wants. So, again, and I'm not faulting him. Everyone does this. Motorsports. Everyone is doing that. Okay? But we have to get to a point as a community, as a motorsports community, where we can come together and say, yeah, stuff like that does go on. Maybe we should question this. Maybe we shouldn't take it at face value. Maybe we should put pressure on NASCAR to do a proper post-race tech inspection. Like last night when he backed the car into the fence after the race was over with. These guys don't do that by accident, okay? These are professional race car drivers. They're not going to back the car into the wall celebrating by accident. They're told to do that either over the radio or before the race by the crew chief. Hey, if you win the race, make sure when you're doing burnouts, just kind of back that thing into the wall a little bit. You ain't got to destroy it, but just enough to where we can get through tech inspection. That is common. That is super, super common. And like I said, I'm not outright accusing anybody of cheating. I just want the community as a whole to get to a point where we can have these conversations without blasting one another, without organizing a pitchfork mob to come after one another. Because I can tell you right now, like I just said, I've been in and around racing my entire life. Okay, trying to find loopholes or gray areas in the rule book, what have you. That is common practice from virtually everyone. And the guys who aren't doing it are running out back every weekend. Okay? That's just a fact. So we should be able to have these conversations, When you see a kid randomly show up and just start rattling off wins left and right, no one can beat him. Come on. Let's put our thinking caps on for a minute. Let's talk about this. At the very least, let's talk about it. Let's entertain the possibility that there may be something going on that we don't see. But no, we can't do that. Which is annoying. It is really annoying. But, and I got to say, just to put a period on it, the absolute blinders that people put on when it comes to this stuff. Kyle Larson, Parker Kligerman, Connor have all three won in the car. Literally everyone who has gotten in that car this year has won. And the argument is, well, yeah, all three of them are insanely talented, so yeah, it's not a surprise that they would... What? Okay, that's such a silly argument to make. Okay, it's silly. It's silly. Then why didn't Parker win in any car that he's driven up to this point? Okay, I'm not even talking about Scott's team. I'm talking about literally any team that he's driven for. Why hasn't he won yet? If he's insanely talented where he can just jump in a car and win on a whim, he gets called up last second, he jumps in the car 20 laps into the race and goes out there and win. You could watch that Daytona race. I've said this before. As soon as that 88 car got out front, you could physically see how much faster it was than everyone. Okay, it could pull gaps on a super speedway that normally you don't see people be able to do once they get out front. I remember watching that race with my wife, and I told her, I said, that 88 car is going to win. Number one, he was going to win because the TV crew was talking about them all night, even when that car was running in the 30s after Parker had gotten in it. That's all they talked about. The entire night, it's like no one else was even out there on the racetrack. On that basis alone, I knew that car was going to win. So yeah, if it's coming across like I don't buy anything that I see in NASCAR nowadays, yeah, I don't. The governing body is so unbelievably corrupt. It's unbelievable. But I'm gonna get the traditional argument. Well, if you hate it so much, then why do you watch it? Because I love the sport. I love what the sport has always traditionally been. I hate what this leadership crew has allowed to happen, what they have allowed to happen in the sport, or what they've done to the sport. That's what I have an issue with. I have a serious issue with that. It's really, really, really aggravating to see that, because I mean, I grew up around the sport, and to see them just intentionally turn it into this Jerry Springer show is annoying. It just is. There was a go-kart race. I don't know where it was at. I saw the clip on X, I think yesterday. And if you're unfamiliar with go-kart, I mean, if you're watching this channel or you watch racing at all, you know, like the legitimate go-kart racing where they don't have a cage or anything. You're just sitting in the cart. This kid, I'm not really sure how old they were. They were on a straightaway and they were carrying some pretty good speed. And I'll put the link in the description so you can watch the video. I'm still under copyright strike, so I'm not going to put it in here. But anyways, they were mad. These two guys were mad at one another for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why. One guy turns into the other one and kind of hops his wheel, and he spins out. But the other guy that he ran into spins out, but he spins out across traffic. So he comes across the racetrack and he gets T-boned and sends the cart into a spin. And as he's spinning, he spins off the track. Once he gets T-boned, he starts to come off the cart. And then they hit the marshal area, the steward section where they were standing. And he gets thrown from the cart. It's just a nasty looking wreck. Fortunately, everyone was basically okay. But you know, I was talking to someone about that last night. Like, if that was my kid that was on that cart, that pulled some crap like that just intentionally ran into someone, you know, and it's something like a go-kart, like you're carrying a lot of speed, so you can easily get injured. My kid would be parked, man. I wouldn't have to wait for the sanctioning body of whatever series we're running in to do something about it. I would do it. I would park his butt myself, and that would be the end of his season, if I ever even let him get back on it. Because not only is it embarrassing to yourself and then to your family, because I'm sure the family helped get you to where you're at. That's bad enough. But then you take a chance of really, really hurt. What if that guy that got thrown off the cart, what if he had been like seriously hurt or, God forbid, killed? I don't care how arrogant and how douchey that you act, and you know, like if you act like Hayden Deegan, where, you know, nothing bothers me, I'm big, I'm bad, and all that kind of nonsense. I don't care how much you act like that. If you do something that directly causes someone else to either be killed or be seriously injured, that is going to weigh on your conscience. At some point, it may not right now, but when you mature a little bit, you get a little bit older, in retrospect, that's going to weigh on you. It just is. That's human nature. And it is that way for everyone. Everyone. So I just don't... The sanctioning body of whatever kart series that was needs to suspend that guy for at least a year. At least. But like I said, if it was my kart, I bought it, that was my kid, that'd be the end of that for a long time. For a long time. It'd take a while to... you're gonna have to gain my respect back, which, you know, obviously I'm gonna respect you to a certain extent as you're my kid, but you're gonna have to gain my trust and my respect back before I even remotely think that I'm gonna start thinking about putting you back on a kart or putting you back out on a racetrack, you know. And then I'm gonna force you to go to that other team, all the other teams that you just tore all their stuff up, and you are gonna help make it right. You're going to help fix their stuff. You know, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense, and it's the kind of entitled brat, spoiled brat behavior that is commonplace in our society nowadays. And you know why that is? Because of these. All these kids they've got these phones in their face all day, every day. They're on social media, they think that they're owed everything. They think that, they shouldn't have to work for anything. We're just going on social media and make money. We can do this, we can do that. It's just, and it's fostered this sense of entitlement. Not trying to go down the rabbit hole with it too much, but that's what it is. And you see stuff like that. It's just a sense of entitlement. It's a spoiled brat acting like a spoiled brat. And I can't stand it. Landon Huffman, I can't remember where they were racing this weekend. Speaking of spoiled brats, not him, but he was leading, coming to the checkered last lap, and some idiot comes into the corner, runs all over him, knocks him out of the way, and then after he knocks him out of the way, he just uses him up coming out of the corner, tears up the left front corner of the car. I would have a hard time not getting physical with whoever that was. I just gotta be honest with you, and I don't get physical with anybody. God, that would, as a fan watching that makes me, it makes me mad. So I couldn't even imagine being team owner, driver. Y'all are gonna have to fix this stuff during the week. The car was totally fine up until the last corner, last lap, because some moron wanted to go into the corner and run you over, trying to win the race. Which, by the way, he didn't even win the race. It's like after he moved Landon out of the way, third place, shot through on the bottom and won the race. So it was completely pointless. I would have such a hard time not going down there and telling that kid how I feel. That guy, I don't even know who he is, to be honest with you. But God, it's just the sense of entitlement, and you just feel like nothing's going to happen. I can just do whatever I want. Anybody's got a problem with it, get over it, that kind of thing. Nah, man. No, that's not how the world works. That's what I'm trying to teach my kids, is like, nothing is owed to you. You have to work for everything that you have. And you better have respect for what you do. If someone in racing, if someone runs you over on the local circuit throughout the week, you have to sit there and bust your butt and fix the thing to get it ready for the next weekend. I think that puts you in a little different mindset and a different position than some of these kids who just have everything bought and paid for them. They have a crew guy or a team or whatever throughout the week that just fixes their cars for them whenever they get tore up. They literally don't have to worry about anything. It's not coming out of their pocket and what have you. That is not the way that kids need to be brought up in racing. Okay? They just don't. You have the spoiled brat mentality that I was just talking about. If you do that, so I brought up Hayden Deegan earlier. It's another example. People are going to get mad at me about this, but I'll stand by it. Like, I don't mind if you have an attitude, okay? I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with you having a personality, okay? What I have a problem with is you just having zero respect for anyone else or for what you're doing. So like, perfect example is when Hayden ran over his teammate. I can't remember the kid's name. Literally every time I try to think of this kid's name, it just escapes me. Come to me in a minute. But he ran over his teammate a couple months back at one of the Supercross events, and just sent it off into the corner, clobbered him, knocked his teammate off the course. Teammate went down, and everyone's like taking up for this kid, taking up for Hayden. Oh, that's just Supercross and blah blah blah. It's not though. Okay, it's not. I've been around Supercross my entire life. Normally, if you go into a corner and you intentionally run into someone, you're going to have to answer for it after the race. Especially if it's your teammate. But this dude jumps off the bike and goes over and gets interviewed, and he's like, anybody got a problem with it, you can suck it. It's like, dude, grow up. Have some respect for other people and what you're actually doing. You know, you don't have to worry about anything because everything's bought and paid for you. No offense to Brian, but that is the way that it is. And you can tell from the way that Hayden acts that that's how it's probably always been. Until he starts having to fork out his own money and his own time to fix things, you know, buy parts, fix parts, what have you. It's always going to be this mentality. Which, by the way, speaking of Hayden, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see him on a 450. You know, I'm counting down the days until that happens because I want to see. Everyone says that he's like he's going to be the new Ricky Carmichael. He may very well be. I hope for his sake that he is. You know, I've always liked the Deegan family. I've always liked Brian. I even liked Haley when she was racing dirt. She never should have left dirt. She needs to go back to dirt. That family is a dirt family. Okay, they just, asphalt's not their thing, and that's fine. There's literally no shame in that whatsoever. Look, Brian is a legend, and he carved out his career on dirt in various different aspects. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I want to see is can Hayden actually hang with guys who are on good bikes, who are actually really good. There's some good guys on 250, but overall the competition level is kind of anemic compared to 450, which that's the point of it. 250 is basically, I mean, it's your last step of learning before you go play with the big boys, and that's fine. So nothing against Cole Davies. I told you the name would come back to me. Cole Davies was his teammate that he ran into. Anyways, 250 is a feeder series, essentially. And so, nothing against any of those guys. Absolutely nothing against any of them. But the competition level is not as high as it is in 450, and there shouldn't be any issue in saying that. But can he hang with Sexton, the Lawrence brothers? I don't know. We'll see, but I cannot wait. I'm counting down the days. And if we had a fast forward button right now, I'd hit it because I want to see, man. I want to see. If he comes out there and he's hanging with them right out of the gate, yeah, he's going to be another Ricky Carmichael. But I'm going to wait to make that declaration until we see him on a 450. So anyways, if you enjoyed listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, what have you, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications. It works. If you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, what have you, check out our eBay. The link is in the description. Also follow us on Facebook and X. I post all kinds of motorsports content on a daily basis throughout the day, so make sure to check that out. As always, thank you guys and gals for watching. We'll see you next time. God bless. Peace.